I only let Swedish girls bounce on it.
Yeah, that's not even the most outrageous thing you'll encounter today. I guarantee it. Because during their peak years, numerous NBA legends treated the entire globe like their exclusive private club. And they had females in surplus. And today, I'm going to reveal what actually transpired from Wilt Chamberlain's $1 million bachelor fortress to Magic Johnson, who bedded over 60 females weekly. And if you consider that insane, you haven't discovered the half of it. Because if you genuinely want to understand how much of a playground the association was for these individuals, you must examine what occurred during the 2000 Sydney Olympics. KG appeared on the All the Smoke podcast and didn't even attempt to minimize it. He labeled the 2000 Sydney Olympic Village a gangbanger atmosphere.
Olympics is all gangbanger.
And he's not referencing gangs or brutality and all of that. He was discussing how much intimate activity transpired in the village. Picture the village like an enormous 10 million square foot marketplace where everybody is present and actively seeking to get some action. But the absolute pinnacle of this insanity was the 32-second condom raid. KG recounts this tale about a recreation room in the village where a worker entered with a garbage container and emptied approximately 10,000 condoms into an enormous bowl on a surface. He mentioned before the individual could even rotate away, literally in 30 seconds, every single one was grabbed.
He walking. Finally, he get to this big old bowl on the table. You don't even know this is a bowl. The man dumps about 10,000 condoms in the middle of the thing.
It resembled a Black Friday clearance, but for individuals who desired to hook up. Actually, it became so chaotic that NBA security, directed by this individual named Horace, actually extracted the squad from the village. They recognized having the NBA individuals around was too influential, which is essentially security terminology for saying they were creating a sexual uproar. And so they relocated the squad to a secured hotel 90 minutes distant.
It's not a condom in the Security got us out of there. It's like, no, you got to get y'all out of here. They don't let NBA players in the village because it's so influential.
Somebody getting tonight.
They essentially had to place the dream team in isolation to prevent them from spending the entire Olympics in the village recreation room. But here's where it becomes genuinely petty. KG didn't merely experience the lifestyle, he utilized it to demolish people's minds. Fast forward to January 7th, 2013 at Madison Square Garden. The Celtics were facing the Knicks, and KG chose to release a nuclear explosion on Carmelo Anthony. Right in the middle of the contest, KG leans in and supposedly tells Melo his spouse Lala Anthony tastes like Honey Nut Cheerios. Now, Melo didn't merely get furious, he completely unraveled. He shot a pitiful 6 of 26 because his brain was literally dissolving on the floor.
70% of y'all girlfriends gonna sleep with another NBA player. Yep. Why y'all dating? So get that over your head.
The finest part is that Melo didn't even wait for the locker room. He went searching for KG like he was back on a street intersection in Baltimore. He attempted to storm the Celtics tunnel and eventually waited by their squad bus. It required 5 NYPD officers, MSG security, and coach Mike Woodson simply to prevent Melo from catching a charge that evening. Word on the streets is that a prominent New York nightclub promoter supplied Kevin some intelligence about Melo's marriage crumbling. When he was supposedly asked to address the situation, Kevin stated, "Melo was competing for a championship, but I was competing for his mental stability."
But, you know, I lived a bachelor's life, a Hollywood life, where a lot of women came my way.
That's an understatement. In his new book, My Life, Johnson talks about his life on the road before he got married. 40 to 50 women in the hotel after every game looking for players.
That brings us to the individual who literally maintained a scouting document on every female in the NBA circle. Gilbert Arenas, who's the unofficial CEO of NBA Exposing, hopped on his podcast and released a bombshell. He claimed that an astonishing 70% of NBA girlfriends have already been circulated through the association. According to Gil, in this association, you don't discover a female. You merely take your rotation. First, we have Brittany Renner, connected to James Harden, Ben Simmons, Colin Kaepernick, and supposedly Jamal Murray. Then Drea McKelly, connected to Gilbert himself, to Sean Stevenson and Jalen Green. And Larsa Pippen, who transitioned from Scottie Pippen to Tristan Thompson. Then Malik Beasley, then Marcus Jordan.
So I'm not going to say it was her, it was all me.
And Gil disclosed that when a rookie enters the locker room grinning because he's acquired a new female, the veterans will immediately terminate it. They make him display her Instagram, And if that female has been circulating, the vets designate her as locker room toxin. Arenas discussed special work, which is the athlete's code for negotiating who acquires which female after a contest. It's like a post-contest draft. The superstars acquire the initial selection, and the bench athletes acquire the remainders. As Arenas famously expressed, in this association, you don't discover a female, you merely take your rotation.
Probably the 2 girlfriends thing.
Okay, what annoys you about it? About being
Just people asking me about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
That's
well,
it.
I mean,
like
technically.
That leads us to Wilt Chamberlain. This individual constructed a $1 million fortress in Bel Air called Ursa Major with a legendary transition chamber for screening females. Life magazine entered there in '72 and discovered a chamber covered in floor-to-ceiling mirrors with an enormous purple velvet-lined waterbed covered in authentic fur. For an individual who claimed he bedded over 20,000 females, he had to be progressing at a rate of 2.3 females per day for 40 years consecutively. He was essentially operating a ghost operation. High output, zero documentation trail, and zero child support.
Yeah,
the next year, where you at? Venezuela?
Venezuela, one of the best, some of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in my life. Marinos de Oriente, Venezuela.
Had a good time out there.
When I made $35,000, I came home with $2,000.
If Wilt had an industrial operation, Magic Johnson was the global franchise. In his autobiography, he directly stated he was accommodating as many females as possible. We're discussing 60 females weekly. On November 7, 1991, the world essentially stopped rotating when Magic announced he was HIV positive. It obliterated the Showtime fantasy in 5 minutes. Then there's Shaq, who was progressing like a cartel boss with military-grade security teams whose entire job was controlling his side pieces. And Rodman, who once left his chips at a Vegas craps table, flew to NYC for Madonna, then flew straight back to the identical seat.
The one thing that kind of stuck out in that book was that you claimed that you slept with over 2,000 women.
That was, I never really counted, but probably had to be something up there, like.
While most were concealing in phantom condominiums, Lou Will was already living in 3026. He had a throuple with Ashley and Rassie. Drake immortalized him with that line, "Sixth man like Lou Will, 2 females and they get along." And then there's Lamar Odom, the saddest tale, a 3-day bender at a brothel where he spent $175K. By the duration they discovered him, he was face down and unconscious. He had suffered 12 strokes and 2 heart attacks. Man, it's actually insane when you contemplate how these legends were progressing. From Wilt operating a literal industrial-scale factory to Magic maintaining a 60-weekly pace. Today's rookies are stressed about one accidental DM, but the OGs were progressing like they had diplomatic immunity.